What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, or if you're watching this live in the Facebook group, welcome. So we have a big time guest here. We've done a few interviews in the past, but I really want to make this just like what any agent, whether they're building right now, or if they're in the field right now, really producing, what people like could practically take from this. And so we got the man who needs no introduction. I mean, the 9-figure man, right? John Wetmore. What's up, man? Thanks for coming on here.
My dude, I appreciate it, bro. All is good over here.
Love it,
All is
man.
good. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I'm actually gonna be in Atlanta, so my wife and I are moving to North Carolina, or like we're kind of like Airbnb hopping, and so like month to month. So we'll be in Atlanta. That's one of our drives. We're driving across the country. We're stopping in Atlanta, I think, like mid-August. So we'll be there, bro. And I was thinking about we should definitely connect if you're there.
Yeah. Are you staying for a couple of days, or are you just literally driving through?
We're staying
Or do you
for
don't
like
know?
a day or two.
Cool.
So
I love it.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Where in North Carolina are you moving?
So we're going probably the Charlotte area, possibly like that. That's kind of what we're thinking. Kind of like going different places, Airbnb hopping. Really trying to. I don't know. Like we're able to like work from home, right? Work from anywhere. So really trying to take full advantage of that and explore. We've never been to the East Coast, so that's something that we'll definitely be exploring, which I'm excited for.
I love it, dude. It is. We just got back from vacation out there. We were on the coast though.
Oh, really?
Actually, it was South Carolina. You said North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
We're
part
in
of South Carolina were you in?
We're in Bluffton.
Oh, okay.
It's on the water. It's near. It's a really popular spot. Everyone goes. It's right near that, like the touristy part on the water. Super muggy, but it was a blast. We love it out there.
Yeah. Did you just get back?
We went the week of 4th of July.
Oh, okay.
So we spent that week out there. Yeah.
Nice, man. And you, I saw that. Was it Matt? Are you coaching Maddox's team?
Yeah, dude. I've coached. I say coached because I don't know how to teach baseball per se. Like I played, you know what I mean? But like teaching, it's a different game. So I always coach like to where I just help, do whatever. And I've been doing it since he was like 4 in T-ball. And then they had coach pitch, and then they finally started regular pitch or whatever. I've always helped out in the dugout, like in practices where I wrangle kids and, keep them as they got older. I had to like keep them positive. You know what I mean? A kid strikes out and he's like, he just lost the World Series or something. And I'm like, dude, it's game 2 and you're 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now they're 11. He's 11 now, and he's starting to play on all-star teams and travel teams. So I help coach. I was the 4th coach. I was the 4th stringer, and I make sure the kids get up to bat in order and don't like fall asleep in the dugout and pick up the bat when they walk and things like that.
Doing the little stuff, right?
Yeah, buddy. That's it, dude. Picking up balls, doing the dirty work.
I love it. That's cool. What how is that like I don't know, like what are your thoughts in terms of you like obviously like you've been able to do a lot of stuff in the insurance space, but is it weird going to like outside events not insurance related and people like are like they don't really know you, they treat you like a regular guy, or like I don't know, how's that I guess
it's more weird when I'm at an insurance event.
Really?
Because my whole life is just no one gave a crap. You know what I mean?
You're just a guy, right?
Just a regular dude. Yeah. It's only in the insurance space where it gets kind of weird. Now, again, I get why, and I appreciate being in that position, and I enjoy, you know what I mean, being able to help people with it. It's definitely interesting. My mom. So funny story. My mom, she had never come to anything at all insurance related in my entire career until this past year, or last year's, not this past one, the one before, annual convention.
Oh, okay.
And it's at like the Marlin Stadium.
Yeah.
And she never even came to my office. She never been in my office really to see, like, maybe to visit when I was by myself, but no events. And so she's walking around this conference with me, and she was like, what is this? Like, what is happening? Because people would just continue to come up and ask questions, and all she knows is me, the dipshit son she raised that did nothing but cause trouble as a kid,
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I'm really good at one spot.
That's hilarious.
But
But
yeah,
that's
it's,
good, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine doing that 24/7, So I like being in my space. I'm actually not, and you probably know this because we've talked enough. I'm not like the biggest by nature people person on earth.
Yeah.
I do my best to, my wife is a lot, like grocery store in line. She'll talk to everyone in line. She's one of those. She just, everyone she meets, she's buddies with. And that's not my nature. But with her being around, she kind of pulls me out of my comfort zone, and it drives her a little bit crazy because when I'm at an insurance event, they have to like drag me out because I don't stop talking.
Yeah.
But if we're at like Maddox's birthday party with one of his friends, I don't say 3 words.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird dynamic.
That's
I turn
hilarious.
on. Yeah, there's like an on.
That's cool. When did it really I guess start changing and people like started coming up to you like crazy at insurance things like that? Like when did that start happening? Like yeah.
I remember the first time. This was definitely, it was in 2015. It's the first year I really like broke out sales wise. So I'd been in like 3 years. That was the first big year I had sales. And I remember I was at a convention and I hadn't yet ever trained. So I'm mid 2015, I'm 3 years in, I've never trained on one thing insurance. And that summer of 2015 is the first time I started training. It's the first time I spoke on a stage, and I was like, dude, I was having a panic attack about it. And I remember I go up to this dude that I had been following for probably most of the 3+ years I was in the business. And he was really good at like in-home stuff. And I liked his cadence.
Yeah.
And at this time, again, I started in 2012, really selling. There was a lot of stuff on like audio, CDs and things like that, and you know what I mean? And so I used to be in the car and I would pop his CD in and listen to him while I was driving around. And I go up and I introduce myself to him at this event. And I'm like, hey man, John Wetmore, just want to introduce myself. Really great to meet you. And I was so nervous to introduce myself. And he looked at me and he's like, bro, I know exactly who you are. I was like, what? And it was the first time there was like a little bit of shift in like, how the hell do you know who I am? And it's just because I had been at a stage where I started selling a good bit. I was on some leaderboards, started getting on some phone calls, on team calls, like sharing what I was doing and what I changed, because it was such a big change.
Yeah.
And after that year, 15, man, it's been like a rocket ship. And it's, again, I ain't mad at it.
Right. Yeah. Walk us through that? Like you said, big change. What was that?
Man, it was just owning that I was half-assing this, being real. I was looking at it from the perspective of like, I was always trying to find the reason why I wasn't successful.
Yeah.
Some external reason. You know what I mean? And I blamed a lot of now looking back, I blamed everything on the client for whatever reason, whether they were broke or they didn't like me or they didn't have, all the things.
Right.
I blamed the leads. I had a lot of excuses as to why I couldn't work. Dude, I would sleep till like 9:30, 10, maybe get around to getting on the phone for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I had a lot of gaps in my schedule. Again, you know what I mean? I'd say I dialed for 3 hours and I made 42 dials. And I really started paying attention to the people that were doing really well, man. And a lot of the people that were on stages and doing the equivalent of things like this. It wasn't quite what it is today on social. And I really started taking inventory of my own actions, and there was like a little bit of a revelation. I was an employee my whole life. I didn't get into insurance until I was 35. So I was an employee my whole life. And I've shared this before, but I've had a couple jobs where I was timed to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like I had to, in a warehouse, I had to load so many boxes per hour or I got in trouble. And I worked in a call center where I had to take so many calls per hour or I got in trouble. And when I was listening to people's activity levels that were way higher than mine, my problem was finding a way to hold myself accountable because no one was calling me to tell me on Monday if I did well or didn't.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was in the warehouse, dude, I could see it on the computer. You know what I'm saying? When I'm on the call center, I could see it on the screen. There was always tracking.
Yeah.
So I just came up with ways to start holding myself accountable, and that became by giving myself credit for certain activities. How many minutes, how many hours, based on how many phone calls, how many dials I made, how many appointments I scheduled, how many recruiting interviews I did. And I came up with a formula for myself to hit 40 hours. And when I started doing that, dude, it was kind of that combined with realizing one of the biggest revelations for me was realizing, because I was an accountant for a while. So I tracked all my numbers. Even when I was doing poorly, if I broke it down to how much I made per dial or per appointment, dude, I was dumbfounded by the number. And so when I combined,
is it like how big it was?
Yeah. So like, I'll give you an example. When I was part-time, and this was in 2012, I did a year part-time. I was making like a few hundred dials a month. Legit. And this was pre-FFL. I was at like a 55 comp at the time on term, and even lower on final expense.
Jeez.
But I was making like $4,000 a month part-time.
Yeah.
4, maybe 3, 4, 5 grand. Kind of varied, obviously, a little bit. But when I did the math and I did like 300 dials and I divided it into the 3, 4, 5 grand, the number equaled $18 every time I made a dial. And I was like, wait, what? Because I was mad at the result. You know what I mean? I'm like, this guy hung up on me. This guy said he didn't fill it out. And I'm arguing on the phone with people trying to convince them that their signature is the one I'm looking at and their height and weight and date of birth. You know what I mean? I'm like arguing with people. And dude, it clicked when I ran that. It's just a simple little number. I tracked my stuff. And one day I was like, I'm just curious. What's this look like? And I just did again, dials into deposits. And I was like, $18 every time I call someone, regardless of the outcome. It didn't matter if they answered, much less if they hung up or if I sold it or booked it. It didn't matter. It was just dials, deposits. And it changed my whole perspective, because from that moment on, this just became a big game to me. Like the seriousness of helping clients and agents, I'm not saying that piece, but the activity level just became a complete game, dude. And I was like, all right, well, 300 dials, $18 a dial equals this. What if I did 300 a day?
Yeah.
What if I did, you know what I mean? And I just started looking at it so just numerically. And then one day I did the same thing with appointments, and I did appointments into deposits. And it was like $350 or something. Every time I booked one, I didn't have to sell it, just book an appointment. I made $350. And it just changed my perspective, and I was so emotional. I would get so frustrated at the negative. I never did sales, dude. That's not my thing. And I'm kind of like sarcastic, and I get frustrated easy by nature. So when I got told no a lot, paying for leads, 20, 30, $40 a lead, I would get pissed. But when I removed that, why am I mad at this one piece of paper?
Yeah.
When if I put it all in a bucket, it's like the insurance companies, dude. If they got mad every time they paid out a death claim, and they were like, we shouldn't have wrote that policy, we paid out $100 grand. What do? They put everybody in a pool, and they look at it as a bucket, or a risk class in this bucket.
Yeah.
Right. And they go, if I sell enough policies at $100 grand at this price range, we're going to net profitably. They don't get mad when someone dies, which is their equivalent of a chargeback, to be clear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
saying? Yeah.
And I just started looking at it like this, and it changed my whole world, because it did not care I no longer cared when I got told no.
Yeah, that's huge.
And that changed my whole career, dude. And that's the only way I've really taught it. I mean, you followed me long enough to know it's, that's how I learned it. Why would I teach it any different?
Yeah. So people tuning in live, Max asked a great question. Can you share your methods on how you keep yourself accountable, or kept yourself accountable, and kind of walk us through that?
Yeah. Well, one, I was tired of being broke. I was horribly tired of being broke. Again, at this stage, 2015, I'm 30, probably 38. And still just getting by, dude. Paycheck to paycheck, if you will. And if a chargeback hits at the wrong time, like, I noticed,
Yeah.
Steph, who you've met, she was still making more money than me, which, weird enough, I didn't like either. You know what I mean? Like, she was there. She was great. She helped me with bills and, the sort. I got a bunch of kids prior to her. But I certainly wanted to change that. And I was really tired of telling my kids no for stuff. They couldn't do things. They got 5 kids, and I started really young. So they couldn't do sports. They couldn't do, what I mean? We go to Wendy's, and I would only go on the day where it was like the kids' meals are half off, and it came with other stuff and with coupon. It was exhausting.
Yeah.
Going to the grocery store and swiping your card and like wondering, is it going to go? Yeah, like that 3, 4, 5 seconds where it's making all the noise. It's like, how many times that's declined in my life? I was tired of that, dude. So that was like what made me hold myself accountable. Now, holding yourself accountable, in my opinion, is really easy. Dude, you commit to a number and you commit to a number. You know what I'm saying? And my deal was full-time is 40 hours. I was not working 40 hours. Again, if I'm running 10 appointments a week, this, everybody watching knows this. 10 appointments a week, you're getting no-showed a few times. It ain't 40 hours.
Yeah.
And I had to own that. And so what I did for me was I decided a couple simple things. I was going to start being the first one in the office dialing every dial day. We had dial days in my stage. Just some of the lingo is going to be different because y'all do things different today. Just make it work for you. Take the concept. We would dial Mondays and Thursdays for the next 2 days. So I decided every dial day I was going to be the first one in the office dialing. So at that stage, I started dialing at 7:30 a.m. And then keep in mind, a few minutes ago, I said I used to wake up at 9:30.
Yeah.
So I had to start getting up at 5, which I hated.
Yeah.
Sean Mike, who you obviously spoke to a couple times and you did the interview with, he had this weird thing where he still does it. And I don't know that it's weird, but that's how I explain it. When I first heard it, I was like, that's kind of weird. But if you call him any day, he's like, hey, this is Sean Mike. Today's Tuesday, July 18th. Leave your name, number, message, call me, blah, blah, blah. Every day he resets his voicemail and says the new day. Every single day of his life. And I'm like, yeah. So I did that for like 2 years. Why? I had discipline. You know what I mean? Like I was trying to get myself disciplined. So I'd get up at 5, and I knew if he called me and it said yesterday, he knew I wasn't up early. So I'm like, it was like kind of tricked myself into holding myself accountable. He still does it to this day. And if you call Dominique Rogers, he still does it to this day. Every day they change their voicemail. I'm like, really? That's simple, but it's a level of commitment.
Yeah.
So being the first one in the office dialing, and then I committed to when I was dialing, I was going to do 60 dials per hour. That was my threshold.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So if I dial from 7:30 to noon, whatever that is, 300 dials, call it. I was gonna compete in that time to hit 60 per hour. It was like a competition with myself. And I gave myself credit towards that 40 hours of 1 minute per dial. So every time I dialed, there was 1 minute. And probably the biggest thing dialing for me was paying attention. I do it all the time with agents now. If you look at your phone and you look at what time your dial was.
That's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, the gaps in between dials. If you add those suckers up, so you'll see, as an example, if I start at 7:30 and then my first dial 7:30, my next one's at 7:34, then 7:35, then 7:42, then 7:49. All those little gaps in the middle, I was doing dumb stuff. Yeah. So that's the 60 per hour forced me to not have those gaps. Now with technology today, y'all using all kinds of apps, you should be able to do more than that.
Yeah.
And then I committed to 30 appointments a week, but also 120 a month. In case I slacked off 1 week, I was going to hit the 120 a month.
What did the 120 a month, like what was that? What was the like target for premium written or like sales made? Like none? Like
didn't care. So my thought process going into it.
Did you like because how'd you arrive at the 30 a week?
Yeah. So I figured if I scheduled 30, I figured I could sit with 20.
Yeah.
Okay. I was taught, and I believe this with everything I have. If you see enough people, you can trip over 25% of the people who will buy from anyone. I don't care if you show up, I show up, new agent show up. I think in the law of large numbers, if you see enough people, 25% of people are just going to buy life insurance. You don't have to be a fancy sales guy to do it.
Yeah.
And now I also think 25% ain't buying from nobody. I don't care who shows up, they're saying no. Yeah. And then you got that middle 50% where now some skill set comes into account. But I knew that concept only worked in the law of large numbers, meaning if I see 4, I'm not necessarily going to sell 1. The 25% don't work when you only see 4.
That's good. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Law of large. Yeah. So
So
you have to play it in large numbers. You can't.
correct.
You can't be like, oh, okay, cool. If my closing rate's 25%, I can sit 5. Perfect.
Correct. That's like doing in a
good.
baseball game.
Yeah.
You know, what's that guy? Shohan Atani, whatever his name is. You know what I'm talking about? I was watching
the Asian dude?
Yes, he's on the Angels.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't watch a ton of baseball, but I was reading something today where they were comparing his stats to Babe Ruth's stats.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And they're phenomenal. His batting average is right where Babe Ruth was after so many games. His home runs right where his, like, identical. But dude, if you looked at his, like, if he plays today, if you go, he's going to hit 350 today, and he's going to hit 1.2 home runs today, because that's his average, that'd be a really bad bet.
Yeah.
Because he could go 0 for 4 today. You know what I mean? It's a Tuesday. Who knows?
Yeah. That's
so
true.
To circle back to the original question, understanding that 25% law of large numbers thing, and understanding I'm getting no-showed no matter how good I am, I may as well just start accounting for it, right? Like, why am I not planning for that? I'm frustrated because I expected to not get no-showed.
Yeah.
So if I expect to get no-showed and I build it into my schedule, when I get them, I go, cool, all good. I expected that. So the 30 allowed me to be able to sit with 20 in my head.
Yeah.
Right? I figured at the end of the year, it'd probably average out to about that. 20 a week over the course of a year is 1,000. Sits. Yeah. If I close 25% of them, that's $250K. That's how I came to it, at an average $1,000 premium. So I was like, if I schedule 30, I sit 20, that's $1,000 a year. If I only close 25%, I can make $250 grand. That was my thought process going into 2015. Just law of large numbers, low end averages. I can have a 25% close ratio. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to be that great, but I can be consistent. I can be disciplined as all get out. And if I see enough people, the numbers are going to work out. And even if I invest $50K into leads, like, who cares? I can net like more money than I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. Now, what's the flip side? I had to be willing to have 750 people tell me no and another 500 no show me and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I went into the year understanding that. So the emotions, I stopped caring. I mean, I didn't love them, but I'm like, all right, whatever. Just keep it moving.
Can we sit on that real quick? Because that's so, I really like that point, because it's easy to create the plan. It's easy. Like, we're all millionaires on paper, right? When you're creating a plan, it's like, oh, dude, I only have to do this, right? How did you stick to the plan? Because here's what's crazy. You ended up doing like 500 that year, right?
Yeah. I issued 460 something. Yeah.
So that's what's funny, but
I messed up.
Right? Can we talk about that though? Like, how'd you stick to the plan? Because I think for me and like a lot of other people, making the plan is easy. And there's a sense of like false hope in a way that we get, the dopamine hit that we get, like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, dude, I'm going to be making this much money. All I got to do is this. And then what happens is we get those no-shows. We get the chargebacks. We get the, hey, I don't want it. Or the people slamming the door in your face or cussing you out. How do you stay disciplined in that?
So I know you know this, so I'm kind of asking the people watching. Y'all realize that even the elite salespeople deal with all the stuff too. They get cancels and no-shows and one legs. And in fact, they deal with more of them because they book more appointments. You know what I'm saying? So I'd argue you get hung up on more than most agents you work with. I'd argue you have more chargebacks than most agents you work with. You know what I'm saying? Because again, the averages are what they are. So I looked at the people that were killing it, and the ones that I was watching never hid that. They didn't hide that they were dealing with stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, and dude, and I hope you all believe that you can do what I've done too, because I don't think I'm special by any means. I know I did the work and I committed to it and I was very disciplined with it. But I believed I could do what the other people on stages and at events were doing. I'm just like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? You know how many people have been made wealthy in this industry in the last 200 years? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God. You know how much money is made in this industry? And I'm like, if all those dudes and gals can do it, why not me?
Yeah.
If they can do it, why can't I do it? You know what I mean? I just don't think anyone's that. Now, there are some people that are really special at some stuff, but the gobs and gobs and gobs of people who have made money in this industry, they can't all be that special.
Yeah.
Right. So I was born with that, though. I do believe I can do what others can do if I'm given the path and the code, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone I've talked to was like, it was high volume, high activity, remove emotions, you know. And then the other thing I'll say to it with the belief level, because a lot of people don't believe they can do it. They think we're some innate creatures. And I'm like, no, I just outwork you and don't quit. That's what I have. That's what I have that most don't have. I outwork you and I don't quit. Right. And then the funny part is, like, you ever hear people say, like, I wish they, especially getting into this, I wish they had like this entrepreneur mindset, this business mindset. So they would say, I absolutely hate that for new agents. I wish y'all had more of an employee mindset, because people ask if it was hard to stay disciplined. I'm like, dude, I had my first kid on the way at 16. I've been working 70 hours a week for some schmuck I didn't want to work for 20 years at this point when I started in insurance. So from 16 to 36, I usually had multiple jobs. If I had one, I'm working 60, 70 hours a week. I worked in a pizza shop for 4 years. I worked in a warehouse for 4 years. I did accounting for the next 10 while I simultaneously went to school to get a degree.
That's insane.
And I had kids between 2 and 4 in that journey. Right. And I've commuted out of state. I've commuted 2 hours to work. I've done really inconvenient things for work. But you know what I did, dude, every single day? Bro, I showed up.
Yeah, you have to.
Monday through Friday, I'd show up. When I was in the pizza joint, dude, I got like Mondays off. So every weekend, all weekend for 4 years, I had to work. And no matter what was going on in life, no matter what my kids had, no matter what my family had going on, barbecues, flat tires, illnesses, sicknesses, anything, dude, I had to be there.
Yeah.
And no one ever would go like, I know you have to work today, but can you help me move? I'd be like, what? Like, yeah, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And even when I didn't want to, and I hated some of my jobs, dude, but I had kids to feed and diapers to buy. I showed up. So I just turned on that same trigger that got me to show up every day for jobs I hated and made no money. I did it for 20 years.
Yeah.
I only sold insurance for 3 years, dude. It wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
It was actually stupid easy when I look back at it. You know, and I sold at a high level. I dinked around for 2 years, so I technically was in the field. I sold technically for 5 years, but that was it, man. I went at it like it was my job.
Yeah.
You know, and I one of the mentors taught me that the sales side is your job, and the building side is the business. So if I didn't do the job every day, I wouldn't have the ability to build the business, and I had to do both. So I did the 40 hours on the job, and then I also, you know, did what I had to do for the recruiting and onboarding, and so it was just that was really huge. It, dude.
That's huge. Can you talk us through? I know that you've shared this before, and I think it really hit home when I was a new agent, when I was listening to you, and I want like other people to like hear this as well. Like, what are the things that you did when you were a new agent and working your accounting job? Like, how were you able to, one, afford leads? Because I think that's like one of the biggest things that people come in at. Hey, I'm like working. How do I afford leads? And how did you do that? And then I think I really like the way that you were able to like separate your money. And so kind of talk about that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I could afford leads the same way I could afford going out to Mexican food for dinner 3 nights a week before. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just reprioritized. And to be fair, the dude who got me started, he just handed me some old leads, and I sat in his backyard. I'll never forget this. I was literally on the back deck, this little, I don't know, 6-foot patio, the wobbly, one of those old school, like hard black patio sets that like the chair wobbles when you're moving it. first time I dialed, I sat on his back porch and dialed his old leads. So it was leads that he wasn't able to take care of that I started dialing.
Wow.
So I booked a few appointments there, sold an app or two there. And then what I did from the jump, again, I'm an accountant. It seemed like common sense to me that when I started in insurance, I had a separate bank account. I'd never had a single commission go into my personal bank account in my entire career here doing this. So I opened up a separate insurance bank account. And my goal going in, keep in mind at this time, Maddox was like 9 months old when I started. My goal was to save up 6 months of income before I quit because I was afraid to quit. I'd lost money prior. I've been through a disaster when I tried to do mortgages for a hot minute, 5-6 years earlier, whatever it was, however many years earlier. And so I was afraid. I was afraid to make the jump right away. Again, I'm 35, 5 kids, making $40,000 a year. I was nervous to get into this sales deal.
Yeah.
So I said, if I can save up 6 months of income, I'm quitting. So that was the plan at the beginning, which again is $20,000.
Which was how? Oh, $20,000. That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I was only making $40,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So I opened a separate bank account from the beginning. All the deposits went there, and then again, that first sale was made off old leads. I think I made like $800 or something. So that was lead money. I would be clear, I was broke. Credit cards, I could have used the $800 to definitely buy some. You know what I mean? Like, I get you. I understand all of you. But I refused to commingle them because the plan was stack it up over here, and I didn't have it before anyway. So I was going to live my life the same until I could make it different. So I saved every penny that went into insurance minus lead costs. So again, that first $800, I put it in the account. I put it all towards leads. I didn't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so then it was like, I didn't understand how to work them, and I didn't have a good lead plan schedule. Like the first year was a disaster. I'd work leads for 3 weeks instead of like get new leads every week. I didn't understand the game fully. But I've always made money in this industry. Some people say they don't make money because they spend their deposits before they reinvest it. It's really hard to do. But yeah, I had that separate account, and I was making $3, $4, $5 a month part-time that first year. So I probably grossed 60-ish roughly. I probably spent, I don't know, 20 on leads if I had to guess going back that far, and a year in, I had like 30 grand in the bank, and I took a week vacation, and I was like, I want to know what it feels like to be full-time. So I took a week off, and I spent the whole week doing insurance. I made a few more sales that week, and I was like, I went in and I'm like, yo, I'm out. And I quit. That was August of 2012.
Wow.
No, August of 2013. Yeah.
So coming up on 10 years.
Later. Yeah, 13, I quit. So I'll be 11. I started in August 2012. It took me a year part-time. So I went full-time in 2013, and then FFL started in December. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I was only 3 months full-time when this deal started.
That's crazy.
So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and talk us through your appointment schedule when you were working, and how you were able to fit that in with the kids and like that.
Yeah, I did. And be clear, that whole year, I don't know if they caught that. I paid myself nothing extra out of that insurance money. It just sat there.
Yeah, that's good.
We lived off my paycheck for the same paycheck. Yeah, obviously, Steph had her money too, which we combined. So we lived off our regular pay, the same exact paycheck. So I made an extra net 40 grand that year. We didn't touch it, which allowed me to go into this thing full time, very different. But my schedule, I was super disciplined in my schedule. I get my kids every other weekend, and I had them one night a week. Obviously, Maddox lived with us full time, so I built my schedule around that. So I would dial on Sundays after church. I try to get it done before dinner. So I'd start at like 1-ish, somewhere in that time frame. And I would try to get done by like 6 if I could, so I could have dinner with the family. At that time I was dialing in my garage, in Steph's garage, little old school 2-car garage, not heated, just a piece of crap desk in there. And I would sit down there all nervous dialing. And so I would book appointments from Monday and Tuesday after work. So I got leads in the county I worked and the county I lived.
Yeah.
And so I would try to book Monday and Tuesday night, like 2 or 3 appointments. And knowing full well that I may not close any, hell, I may not even sit any because it's only 2 or 3. And if I didn't book any or I got no-showed, I always had a door knock plan. So I door knocked a lot when I was new, like a lot. Because I was not good on the phone. So I used to have to I'd get hung up on and yelled at, so I'd go door knock them too.
So you had a rule. You had a rule that they have to say no in person and say no on the phone for you to be like, okay, I got resolution on this, right?
Yeah, you had to tell me no twice. Once on the phone, once in person. At least twice. It was always at least once on the phone and at least once in person. That was just.
So you're saying that you do it more times?
It depended on. Yeah, I especially call them. I didn't door knock multiple necessarily. Like if someone told me to pound dirt at the door, I didn't. Not that I wouldn't. I had enough leads to not. But on the phone, dude, I understood like, dude, if you catch me on a bad day, like me personally, I'm not like the best to be around. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, other people got to be that way.
Yeah.
So like, just because I called them on Tuesday at 11:40, maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe I was having a bad day. Maybe I projected wrong on the phone. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And I was convinced, even if, especially as quick as some of them hang up on us, there's 0% chance that they're going to know it's me when I call again in a week or two. There's no chance.
Yeah. No.
You know what I'm saying? And even if they do, $18 a dial, dude, I didn't care anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I forgot where we started. I'll go in circles sometimes. Remember what you asked me?
No, your 11-day schedule throughout the month.
Oh yeah. So that's the full-time one. I'll tell you that. I'm glad you pay attention, bro. I like this,
bro. So a little like it's cool because it's cool how our relationship has grown, right? Because a little bit of backstory how John and I met. I remember seeing him. I think he had posted a story on Instagram. And this was right when I got about to get into life insurance. I was in the insurance industry. I was cold door knocking businesses at this time. And I was hearing oh dude, you could do this, you could be crazy, you could just do a lot, right? And so I remember I remember listening to the Cody Askins interview you guys did in his office. And I just remember so many stuff of that was really good, just very tactical things. You were I heard about triple dialing for the first time. I was like, no way, that's crazy. And then I started doing it and it started working. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll put it to the test because he knows his stuff. So then I see him on Instagram. He's getting into a jet and he's like, DM me DM me if you want to change your life. And so I was like, all right. And this was in January of 2021. And so I remember reaching out. It was in February because it was right before, it was the day of 8% virtual. And so I remember you were there and I was like, dude, no way. And so I said, I want to change my life. And you're like, all right, cool. I could talk. Here's my number. Right. And so I was like, no, really? And so we talked and it was surreal because I remember talking and you were just very down to earth. You're like, yeah, man, we could start you at 110% contract level. And I was like, how does it go past 100? You're like, yeah, dude, we go up to 145. I'm like, what? And so I'm freaking out and we're talking. And so that's kind of a little backstory. Then we start talking from there. I remember getting his numbers from there, saved it, ended up getting the insurance. And I remember my first sale, the second sale, I made 2 sales that day. The first time I went out in person and I called you. And I said, hey, man, I made my first couple sales. Just want to talk through it with you. And that was really cool because you answered the phone again. And I wasn't even we weren't even working together. And so then from there, I remember at the SWAT event, we ended up talking and we talked in Nate's backyard for about, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes. And I remember you were like, dude, just double your leads. Double your leads, right? And I was like, I've heard it. I heard it so many times. I remember you telling the story about that. And I was like, okay, It's different when you're hearing it on a podcast multiple times. When you're hearing from the guy in person. So I was like, all right, cool. Doubled my leads and it worked. And from there, that's how our relationship grew, which is really cool. And so
Yeah.
I've appreciated that. I still like to this day, I go back and watch interviews of you, like just podcasts, different things like that I can pick up on. And so I'm really grateful for your friendship and how you've been there. Even though we've never worked together before, like it's cool to see like that's just the kind of guy you are. So I've really appreciated that big time. But did
Schedule.
you? Yes. Let's talk about schedule.
I'll finish it quick. Yeah. So part-time, again, dial Sunday, Monday, Tuesday night. And then I would dial at lunch at work on Thursday and Friday. And I would book up Saturdays. And I'd run, depending on if I had my kids or not, I'd either run till like noon or 5, depending if I had the kids or not that weekend.
Yeah.
So that worked. That's how I did part-time for a year straight. I did it. Never changed it. Just what I did. And then when I went full-time, I toyed with a couple different schedules. The one you're talking about, the 11 days, because people get mad. They're like, you must have worked and I did work a lot, but dude, I was only in the field 11 days a month, and I issued that 460. And it's not because I was an amazing sales guy. I just did a lot. I'm very like efficiency minded. I hated, because the first year I'd go out on a day on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'd have 4 appointments on Tuesday and 3 on Wednesday. Like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
You know? And I did that long enough where it made no sense to me to do it that way. So I started doing, I would dial on Monday, run Tuesday, Wednesday. And then I would all day, all night. So Tuesday, Wednesday, I ran every week. And I would 10, 12 appointments a day I would schedule. And then because I had my kids every other weekend, the second half varied every week. So I had my kids every other weekend, so I would run every other Friday. So the weekends I had my kids, I didn't run that Friday because I wanted to pick them up from school at whatever, 2:30 or whatever it was. So every other Friday I would run, right? So, and then Saturdays I had 2 with my kids and 2 without the kids. One of them I chose to just hang with Steph and Maddox, and then one I would work. So I did Tuesday, Wednesday every week, every other Friday, 1 Saturday a month. So Tuesday, Wednesday times 4 weeks is 8 days. Every other Friday, 9, 10, 1 Saturday, 11 days. But I was doing 10 to 12 appointments a day, which is how I got to the 120. And I was like a machine discipline, dude. Like I'm still that way. Like I'm wired for that. You know, since we met, I was in terrible shape when we met. I'm in pretty damn good shape now. And it's not because I lift
your arms looking huge.
Dude, I go every day, dude. I have a routine. I do every day I go. You know what I mean? I hit certain markers. I have a goal thing I share. I'm just like my superpower is I'm insanely disciplined. Even when I don't want to do crap, I will do it if I say I'm going to do it. If I put it on a checklist, I'm doing it. So I keep a little app on my phone with things I want to do every day. And I'm insane. That's what I'm good at. I'm consistent and I'm disciplined, you know? So that was my schedule, dude. And I just stuck to it. And I did that 11 days. I did that for the next, all of 15, all of 16, half of 17, issued like, I don't know, 1.1, 1.2 million, whatever it was on my own pen. And obviously the teaching, it's not that complicated if you just kind of, I can teach the skill set stuff. Yeah. You know, I can certainly teach you how to overcome this or say that instead of this. I just learned it doesn't mean a whole lot if you don't work enough. You know what I'm saying? No different than a stupid example. Like I suck at golf. Like I pretend I want to play. I'm a member of a country club, but I'm so bad. And someone here watching is good. And you can probably think like, I could teach you how to, like, I can hit irons halfway decent. Do you play at all?
I don't.
Okay. So the driver, for those of y'all watching, 100% of the time does this.
I top golf.
Yeah, dude, I'm good at top golf for about 12 minutes. Then I look, oh, I'm pretty good. And I start aiming and I'm terrible. So, but my point is, like, someone that's watching is amazing at golf. You could come tell me how to hit the ball better. But if I only golf 3 times a year, you can tell me till you're blue in the face. I'm never going to be good. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Even if I only play once a week, Tiger Woods could teach me how to golf. If I don't play enough, I'll never be good. You know, and this thing is really similar, man. I could teach you everything I know, but if you don't work enough, it's useless. Yeah. You know? And I believe that with everything I got, and it changed my world. And that's the way I teach it. So I'm activity first, skill set second. You know, do more now, get better later. We'll worry about getting better later on. Like, let's just do a bunch of it now, and then we can work. If you don't work enough, I have nothing to fix. You know what I'm saying? If you don't get a bunch of objections and told no and all that, I can't. There's nothing to fix. So I committed to that, man, and I live by it in everything I do. So my son quotes it. He's 11, dude. He's like, get better at baseball, do more. He tells his kid, you know, it's who I am. You know, I'm not the 80% close ratio guy. You know, and I ain't mad at those who are. More power to you. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. You know, I just know my way works really well.
Yeah.
So,
did you ever think it was going to get this big?
Nah, dude. I had no idea. I didn't even envision this big. I remember when I first truly committed to Sean. When we first started, I've told this story a million times. We had no leads. I issued like $800 my first month full time at FFL. Like $800 for the month was so that's in 2014, January. Yeah, I issued one policy the whole month. And I spent like $900 in leads, and I issued like $800. And my excuse was we had no leads, which we didn't have a lead plan, but I certainly, looking back, could have done something. But I was whiny and complained about it, and I was ready to quit. So he got on the phone. I didn't know him really. I knew of him. He knew of me, but we didn't know each other at all at the time.
Yeah. So
he calls me and he explains his vision for the company. And all the stuff you see today, he explained on that phone call in January 2014. Household name, $1 billion. Like he's had this vision the entire time. So he asked why I'm quitting. I'm like, dude, we have no leads. His answer is, yeah, I know, I run the company. I was like, well, thanks. And he's like, sorry, but I do have a plan. And he gave me his plan and, you know, told me he'd work on getting me some leads, which he did. And at that time, he got me excited. And I remember committing to him because the company was nothing. It wasn't what y'all see today. This was literally like, it could have been called Joe Blow's Insurance Company, and we start today, was what we were at that time.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of other options, you know, but I remember him and Killamet, who was my mentor for years, they committed to some vision that I didn't see yet. So I bought in to their vision. You know what I mean? I just knew they saw something I didn't see, and I bought into that. How bought in they were, I was like, I want that. So I committed that at that moment. Sean started getting me first year. All I ran, for those that are familiar with the type, we had these second chance, no image leads. So it was a second chance lead, mortgage protection, and you didn't get the lead. You only got the data for the lead. Does that make sense? So that's all I ran year one. I issued $175,000 on those. That's all we had. And I remember when I hung up on that phone call with him, I sent him a text after. I wish I saved it, but I didn't. And I said, dude, I look forward to one day issuing like $300,000 as a team with you. Like a month. That was my vision at that time, 10 years ago. $300,000 a month was me thinking like above the moon.
Huge.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we do more than that a day. You know? So your vision can be stretched, man. I've been around a lot of successful people who have done crazy big things in life, and it's stretched me, which I appreciate, because I didn't see it, and I don't see what's coming. I know something dope's coming. I don't know exactly what, you know, but it's a whole integrity thing, man. I bought into their vision too. Same concept. They see something I don't see, so I bought in. You know, and that concept has done me well. I don't need to be the man. I'm going to be a damn good starting player, though. Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge. I want to take this last part of this call to really talk about your thoughts and like structure of building. And your thought process with like people wanting to grow, how you're able to now, like what was your thought process in being able to build it, and then also like how you structured things so that you could grow at like the rate you have?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is structure is not going to come until you have a bunch. You know what I mean? If you're trying to do structure early, you're messing up. You have nothing to structure. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like there is a purpose to the way we build today, But at the beginning, it was just, and be honest, dude, at the beginning where I didn't grow is because I was trying to recruit people, so I got paid more. That strategy did not work, which caused me to be frustrated when they didn't work. So for me, what I had to learn to do was realize I didn't need agents to change my life. I learned how, as you said, I learned how to make $500,000. Give me leads and my cell phone, and I'd go sell $500,000 and keep to myself. Like, that wasn't crazy difficult.
Yeah.
And so I decided that I was going to be really particular about who I worked with. And I only wanted to work with people who wanted to change their family like I did mine. If you don't, and everybody says that verbally. So I decided I was going to start watching the actions of people, because that spoke more. I may not have been the best sales guy, dude, but I'm an action guy. I will do.
Yeah.
So I started watching the actions, because I get told 1,900 times a week that people are going to do A, B, and C and change their life. And this is the week, and today's the day I start, and Monday I'm going to go get them. And this is the time.
Yeah.
Dude, I hear that more than I hear my kids say dad. It's sad. So I had to come up with something, man. So I started watching people's actions, and I decided, this probably, into that 2015 year, that my goal was to help people be able to help their kids like I was helped with helping mine. And I would give them the playbook. I'd tell them exactly what I did. But if they didn't do the things, I decided I was going to quit them before they quit me. Because my thought was, if you're not going to be coachable and listen, why are you involving me?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of calling? Like, yeah, what's the point? Like, why? Like, if you don't want to listen, I ain't mad. Can you just leave me out of it, though?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I had to get really good at asking people questions to understand kind of where they were at in life, understand where they want to go, and most importantly, what they were willing to sacrifice to get there. Because everyone wants to go from broke to a millionaire, but most people ain't willing to sacrifice long enough to get there.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of get people to verbalize that stuff to me. And then I'd build a plan around their situation. Whatever it was, everybody's different. It's like, what do you sell a client? Dude, I don't know. It's every client's different.
Yeah.
So I'd spend time with them, and I'd give them a plan, and I would put it on you to let me know when you did step A, so I could tell you step B. You know what I'm saying? And I just got really good at that kind of volley and back and forth. So if you didn't do it, you would just not call me. So it saved a lot of frustration on my end. And at the beginning, dude, to be real, my goal and structure was to hire everybody direct. So by the time I hired my first staff was 2017. I had Killerman. I used his part-time for a hot minute, but my own staff on payroll was 2017. We were doing $400,000 or $500,000 a month, and I had probably 40 agents before I had a staff. So I managed
40
everything
agents
myself.
direct to you?
Yeah. Yep. There might have been like one chick had like 2 or 3. This one had 1 or 2. You know what I mean?
Well, pretty much mainly everybody direct.
Yeah. It wasn't like I hired one guy and he had a bunch. It was 40. They were about all direct. And I printed money that year. I mean, my income tripled that year. And it's just because my strategy was help as many people as possible get paid. And if you aren't doing what it takes to get paid, I'm moving on, because there's how many people on the planet in the US? 300-400 million. I don't know how many, zillions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, some people think it's mean when I say this, but like, how like y'all are 1099 and don't have to work with me? You know who else is 1099?
You.
This guy. And you know who I don't have to work with? You.
You
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you all have that same ability. Like, why is it in the insurance space we think we have to hire everyone who breathes? Like, why do we do that?
Yeah.
Because, you know what I'm saying? It's like, because you say you want to work here, I have to hire you? No. F that, dude.
Yeah.
So I started actually interviewing people. I stopped pitching people. I started finding out if it's someone I want to work with every day, because a lot of people are frustrated, and I frustrate a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I decided to just be real about who I am, the way I teach, what I expect. I can help you. I've done it. I can just tell you what I did. And I just became really transparent, man. I accepted who I am, and I accepted the way I did it. And I was okay not hiring everybody. And that became attractive to people, And then with time, certainly we paid attention to more detailed structure. But prior to doing 4, 5, 6, 700 grand a month, dude, you don't really need to pay attention to that at all. You know, if you're not hiring a bunch direct, you eventually won't have the option to choose the structure anyway because it's someone else's business. I mean, if I hire you and at that 400 grand and you were doing 380 of it, I have no choices to make anyway. It's your deal. You did all the hiring. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like I wanted to make sure that direct to me, I was my own biggest group. I never wanted to hire you and have you bigger than my team outside of you. Does that make sense? So if I have 3 or 4 managers, I'm competing against those 3 or 4 managers outside of them.
Your
so if I remove their volume, my base shop. Yep. If I remove their volume, my volume without them is going to be bigger than them. That was my strategy. I never wanted someone to go like, Wetmore's this size because of me. I wasn't having that. So I did my best to just keep hiring direct, man, as long as possible. You know?
So as that continues to establish, those leaders really start showing up. Then you started pretty much, you kept hiring direct, right? And they started like they would hire direct as well.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I kept hiring direct till, hell, we were hiring direct this year to some level, you know. I can structure it different because I have a lot of help now.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's where like depth is like very, what's the word? Like direct is very profitable and that depth is very like stable. You know what I'm saying? Like direct hire is profitable, but it's a little unstable because they come and go. You know what I mean? But if I get a guy like you and I help you build, you're probably going to stay, but it's less profitable if I look at it from a direct standpoint. And that's okay. You're running it. You should make most of the money. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have a nice little balance of width and depth, but you can't make that decision until you're really wide. I always say like this, dude, and we can end with this if you want, however you want. I always look at like the Braves, Major League Baseball. They're trying to field 9 players. They got like 20 people on the roster, whatever, right? But to get those 9, they don't just start with 9. To go, here's my 9. Dude, they have like 3 minor league teams, right? That probably have, I don't know, a couple hundred people in the organization. I'm guessing. I don't really know the exact numbers. Yeah. But Major League, they look at this minor league team. You know what I'm saying? And then minor league teams, they scout from colleges for the most part, right? Colleges, and think how many are in colleges. Thousands and thousands and thousands, right? Colleges recruit from high schools. Tens and tens and tens, if not hundreds of thousands. High schools get their players from Little League. Millions of kids. So to get your starting 9, you got to have 1 million Little Leaguers, which is the people that quit after 3 days. Then you got to have some people that make the high school team. Does that make sense? Then you got to have some people that make the college team. Then you got to have some people willing to go through the minors. And then you got your guys that are going to step up and be major league players. Those are your guys. Those are the guys I have today. So many of y'all trying to build, and you're like, I want my major league guys now. Bro, you ain't even teaching people how to field ground balls yet. You think you're going to start a major league team in insurance? It's not going to happen, dude. So you got to go through those layers before the cream rises to the top, and you go, all right, there's my guys. Because the guys you think are your guys now, I promise you, more than likely, statistically, they're not going to be your guys forever. You know? And I don't know. I understood that pretty early when I was starting. It's not like I learned all of this. Yeah. It just made sense. So I wasn't trying to make you my guy. Maybe you make the team, maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe you're here, maybe you're not. I don't know. But if I give you what I got and you work your way up, I just have to identify it and help you best I can. Yeah. You know, so I was willing to go through those layers of people. I've interviewed obscene numbers of thousands of people in my career. You know, and that's, again, I just outworked everybody.
I have one more quick question. Yeah, I want to end off with this. What's a metric or metrics that you looked at and that you would track, especially in building, that other people can help look at as well, or things like that?
Yeah, same concept as selling. So I just 30 appointments a week, 30 interviews a week. That's how I got to my 40 hours. So if you do the math, a minute per dial, 600 dials is 10 hours dialing the phone. Okay. 20 sits at 1 hour each is 20 hours. So now you got 30 between sitting and dialing. And then recruiting interviews, 20 minutes each. So I can do 3 an hour. If I do 30 of those a week, it's another 10 hours. So 20 hours sitting with clients, 10 hours dialing the phone, 10 hours interviewing agents. That's how I built it. So 30 a week, 30 and 30. So if you say you want to build and run, my answer to you is like, run 30 appointments a week, do 30 interviews a week. If you don't do that, I'm not mad. But I'm going to tell you, this will be inconsistent and suck for the rest of time. I can't build. Do you talk to 30 people a week? If not, it's going to suck and be inconsistent for the rest of time. My opinion. Now, if you're an outlier and you made it work otherwise, amen, high five. But I'm not training on that. I'm not training on outliers. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So 30 a week, dude. Talk to 30 people a week. You will never care when someone quits.
You don't need to. Yeah, that's so good.
Well,
John, appreciate
you'll be forced
your
to quit.
Yeah, man, seriously. Well, John, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on here and dropping bombs,
you got it, dude.
Stories, things like that. And guys, as you're watching this, go rewatch it. There's some nuggets or nibbles, as some people call it, that were dropped here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
My dude. See you, bro.